and thank you for joining me on this Sunday service. Today we're going to be talking about the power of gratitude. There was three men that were heading on a 4-day journey. They packed their bags, they got all their food, they said goodbye to their families, and they were heading out to go evangelize at people that had never heard the word of Jesus. Now, on their journey, something tragic happened. Their boat actually began to sink, and they ended up being stranded in an island. With no food or water, these men began to die slowly. Now, it's a very tragic thing that happened to them. But their words and their last moments were recorded in a journal that one of the men kept. This journal was found years later after the bodies of the men were actually found. And this was what was recorded in their journal. Their last words were about how much they loved God and how thankful they were that they were able to serve Him for all these years. When I first heard this story, I immediately was convicted. And I'll tell you why I was convicted. Because if I would have been in their shoes, if my boat would have sank and I would have been stranded in an island with no food or water, I don't think in my journal I would have written about how much I love God. I don't think I would have written how grateful or thankful I am. I think I would have been angry. I think I would have been bitter. And it hit me. I started thinking, I started processing it. Why, John? Why would you be so ungrateful? Why would you be so bitter? Why would you be so angry? And I thought about it, and I was like, if I'm not grateful in the situation that I'm in right now, if I'm not happy with where I'm at, if I'm not full of thanks to God for where I stand today, how will I be thankful if it just got worse? These three men chose to have a grateful heart towards God. Even though their circumstances were horrible and they ended up dying, their gratitude for God never ended. No matter where you stand today, I want to share with you three key principles that are going to help you and I have a heart for more gratitude towards our Heavenly Father. The first principle is humility. Humility is known as seeing others more important than yourself. Like, for example, when you open the door for someone, or when you let someone cut in you in front of a line, or when you're on a bus ride and you get up and you give your seat to someone. That's not just being polite, but you are having a heart of humility. You are saying to the people around you, I'm not as important as I think I am. You are more important than I am. Humility is not about the amount of money that you have or the position that you have, but it's how you view others. Now, there's a story that I heard about a limo driver that he was very impacted by something that happened to him while he was working. This limo driver, he was driving around one of the wealthiest men in America. And he was driving him around, and when he finally got to the destination, the limo driver got out and he went to open the door for this wealthy guy. And when he opened the door, the wealthy man, not only did he say thank you, but he walked to the driver's door and opened the door and told him to get in. Why is this so important? The wealthy man had everything going for him, and he just had to say thank you and walk to his place. But he chose to take some time out of his hands to go and open the door for the driver. He was saying, your job is as important as my job. I am not more important than you are. You are valuable. And that is something that we need to have in order to have more gratitude towards God. It's humility. In Luke chapter 7, verses 38, there is a story of a sinful woman. Now, Jesus was invited into a home. And there's Pharisees and there was different people in this house. And there was one woman that heard that Jesus was going to be there. And it's in Luke chapter 7, verses 38, and we're going to be reading verses 44 and 45 and 46. And now, and it says this, as she stood behind him at his feet weeping, she began to wet his feet with her tears. And then she wiped them with her hair and kissed them and poured perfume on them. This woman is known as a sinful woman. This woman came into this house knowing that Jesus was there, and as soon as she saw him, she started crying at his feet, wiping the tears with her hair, and pouring perfume all over him. Now, Jesus, what was the stand that he took here? He could have been like, "You're a sinful woman, get away from me," or "What are you doing?" But he let her, because she was showing great humility. She was showing great love towards him. Now, the Pharisees were saying, "Oh, wow, why is Jesus allowing this woman to be at his feet like this? If he only knew that she was a sinner, he would not allow this." But Jesus said this, "Do you see this woman? I came into your house, and you did not give me water for my feet. But she wet my feet with her tears and wiped them with her hair." Verse 45. "You did not give me a kiss, but this woman has, from the time I entered, has not stopped kissing my feet. You did not pour oil on my head, but she has poured perfume on my feet." Jesus was so impacted by this woman that not only did he forgive her, but he showed her so much love. Now, can we receive that love from God? Can we be forgiven for our sins? We don't have Jesus in front of us for us to fall at his feet and cry and clean him with our hair. But we do have one thing. We can show him our humility on the way we worship him. Now, worship is not just singing him a song, which it includes that, but it's where we spend our money. It's also on how much time we spend reading his word, or by just spending some time and talking to him in prayer. We show our humility towards God by saying, "Father, you are more important than anything else around me. You are more important than the soccer game, the basketball game, the homework I have, because I cannot go do these things if I have not spent some time with you." Remember, humility is how we see others as more important than ourselves. So if God is more important than everything else, you will make the time to go spend some time with him. We can no longer say that we are too busy. We can't say that we don't have time to show God love. If our heart is going to be full of gratitude towards him, we need to first make him a priority in our lives. Like this woman in Luke chapter 7, we must show God that he is number one. With our love and our worship towards him, the way we sing him songs, the way we give him the church money, and the way we read his word, and the time we spend in prayer with him. The first principle was humility, and the second principle is our focus. You guys know that when I was learning to drive my motorcycle, they told us that the most important rule to not drive your bike was to keep your focus. Keep your focus on where you're going. Keep your eyes in front of you. Now, there are some people that in my class, when they were driving the motorcycle with us, they started dropping the bikes. And one guy even grabbed his bike and he sent it flying towards a wall. Thankfully, he wasn't hurt. But these people, the trainers were saying that they were losing their focus. Instead of looking in front of them where they were headed, they started looking at the floor. And when they looked at the floor, their bike started going towards it. How can we, as Christians, have a life that is focused? In Genesis chapter 3, we see the story of the first sin. Eve, who was the first woman, the wife of Adam, she was having a conversation with the serpent. On Genesis chapter 3, we see that the serpent was coming and he was going to guide Eve away from the plans and purposes that God had for her. Eve was about to lose her focus. Now let's read. Genesis chapter 3, verse 1. Now the serpent was more crafty than any other wild animal the Lord had made. He said to the woman, "Did God really say you must not eat from the tree in the garden?" And the woman said to the serpent, we may eat fruit from the trees in the garden, but God did say we must not eat from the tree that is in the middle of the garden. You must not touch it, or you will die. Eve is saying to the serpent that God made all those trees for me to have. I could eat from every single one of them. But the devil, the enemy, the serpent, he wanted to distract Eve. He wanted her to take her focus from everything that God had given her to focus on the one thing he told her not to touch. He told her, this tree will give you wisdom. This tree will make you like God. You need this tree. You want this tree. You must have this tree. Now Eve lost her focus. She was no longer looking at the things that God had given her, but she was looking at the one thing she did not have. And it says right here, the woman saw the fruit of the tree, that it was good and pleasing to the eye, and she also desired it for gaining wisdom. She took it and ate it, and also gave some to her husband who was with her, and he ate it. The enemy was able to distract Eve. He told her, don't look at what God gave you. Look at the thing he's keeping away from you. Guys, if we're going to have hearts of gratitude, we need to keep our eyes on what we do have instead of being focused on everything that we don't. I'll tell you guys this. When I first had my first car, I was so happy with it. I would love to grab it and drive it around. I would clean it every day. But I began not to look at my car anymore and began to look at the cars of my friends. Began to look at the cars of other people. I wasn't no longer looking at my car. I started looking at other things. My focus was shifting. And I became anger. I became full of anger. I became bitter. And the same things happen when we take our focus away from what God is giving us, when we focus on what God hasn't given us yet. We feel empty because we think like, that's all we need. If we only got that one thing, if we only had that one phone, if we only had that one friend, if we only had that one house, if we only had that one car, if we only went to that one school, our life will be complete. But God is telling us that gratitude comes from not only living with the things we have, but being thankful for them. Now we see that in order to have more gratitude, we first have to have humility. We have to shift our focus to the things that we do have. And the last thing is to be thankful in every single circumstance. I want to tell you guys this. Most of the people that I know, most of my friends that have left the faith, that have left their love for God, that no longer see him as who he is, they have left him because they wanted him to do things for them that he did not do. They wanted their friend to be healed from a certain thing, and they asked for it, and it didn't happen. Their friend or their family member was about to die because they were sick. They asked for healing, and God did not heal them. So they became angry and bitter. They wanted a specific car or a specific phone, and they were asking and asking and asking God, oh God, if you love me, give me this. And God never allowed it to happen, and they became bitter against him. We cannot see God as someone who just gives us what we want. His will is different than our will, and his thoughts are higher than our thoughts. We will never be full of gratitude towards God. We will never be full of thanks to him if we just look for him to give us things. If we just look for him to do things for us. If we just look for him to be helping us always in the things that we want instead of the things that he wants. There's a different attitude when we say, God, let your will be done, not my will. Even Jesus had a prayer like that. That when he was about to go and be crucified, he said, God, let not my will, but your will. It is important for us to understand that we must love God and be thankful towards Him, not because of just what He can give us, but because of who He is. That's a different attitude. And that attitude is going to take us to be grateful towards Him. There's a story in Daniel chapter 3 of three guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. These three guys were faced with a crazy thing that if they did not bow down to an image that King Nebuchadnezzar had built, that they were going to be thrown into the fire and they were going to die. The king found out that they were not bowing down to the image, that everyone in the nation was bowing down to this image except these three guys. And when the king found that out, he called them over and he told them, if you bow down to this image, if you bow down to the image of gold that I made, you will be saved. You will not die. Now these guys, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, were faced with something. Do we let go of God to hold on what we want? Do we let go of God to save our life? Do we let go of God in order to save our own skin? Or do we hold on to God no matter the circumstance? Do we hold on to God whether He saves us or not? Do we hold on to God because of who He is instead of what He can do for us? Being thankful in every circumstance is hard. I'll tell you this. The three guys, not only Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego, but the three evangelists that were stuck in that island, they could have been angry. They could have been bitter. Just imagine the thoughts that were going through their mind being stuck. They were like, we were going to serve you, God, but we got stuck in that island. We're never going to see our family again. But instead of being focused on that, they chose to love God in every single circumstance. They chose to tell God, we love you, we trust you. We know that you're going to take care of our family. We know that we're thankful for the time we're able to serve you and to be able to serve your kingdom. And if you save us, we know you could save us. You could bring an airplane or you could bring a boat to get us out of here. We will love you, but even if you don't, we will still love you. The same situation happened to Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. It says right here that when the king told them to bow down to that image, when the sound came up, that they did not bow down. Not only did they not bow down, but they told the king this. This says, we do not need to defend ourselves because God will deliver us from your hand. But even if He doesn't, get that part, even if He doesn't, we want you to know that we will not serve your God that you have set up. You must make a choice. Circumstances in life are going to get hard. People around you are going to get sick. Your financial situation could change dramatically. Will you still be thankful to God, even if the circumstances are not what you want them to be? Will you ask God for His will to be done instead of your will? Guys, God is not just a Santa Claus. He's not just there to give you very good gifts. He's a God that cares for you, and He knows what's best for you, even if we don't think that's right. Meshach, Shadrach, and Abednego were willing and ready to go into the fire, whether God saved them or not. Are we willing to go through life circumstances, trusting God regardless of how He responds? That's something that is hard. That is something that as young people, we need to learn to do now. That maybe if He doesn't give us that scholarship, maybe if He doesn't bring that friend, maybe if He doesn't allow my parents to have that, maybe if that doesn't happen, will I still love God? I want to encourage you today that gratitude towards God is not just when things are good, But gratitude towards God could be in every single circumstance that you find yourself in. We have to trust God that He's in control. We have to trust God that He cares for us more than we could ever imagine. And that if His will is for maybe not that healing to happen, He knows the reason for it. And we need to trust in that. We talked about 3 things today. We talked about humility. We talked about our focus. We talked about being thankful regardless of the circumstance. I want to share with you guys a verse that it's in Romans chapter 1, verses 21. It says, "For although they knew God," that's you and I, we know God. It says, "For although they knew God, they neither glorified Him nor gave Him thanks. But their thinking became futile, and their foolish hearts became darkened." Guys, we either are thankful towards God and have a heart of gratitude towards Him, or our hearts are going to begin to become darkened. My desire for each of you guys is to experience every beautiful, wonderful thing that God has for you. And that comes from a place of you choosing to live out gratitude. You choosing gratitude no matter what. But there will be no gratitude if you choose not to be humble, if you always focus on the things you don't have, and if you're angry and bitter because He did not give you that miracle that you wanted. Guys, I don't want your hearts to be full of darkness. Choose to be grateful to God. Choose to love Him regardless of the circumstance. Choose to be thankful for the things that you do have. And I'll tell you this, your gratefulness will open an amount of blessings that you cannot even imagine. Your gratefulness towards God will open up doors and opportunities that you won't even be able to do with. God loves you. He cares for you. He wants you to be able to trust Him, and in that have gratitude towards Him. I want to thank you for listening to this teaching. I pray that your heart may be full of gratitude towards Him. Thank you, and bye.